Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Supply Chain School. This briefing session will hopefully help you to understand how to assess your offsite skills. My name is Ian Heptonstall. I'm a director of the Supply Chain School. Got the responsibility to run it on behalf of our 100-odd partners day to day. But I also lead on the offsite and modern methods of construction work stream within the school, where we're trying to look at how do we use offsite and modern methods of construction to develop a more sustainable built environment. Our passion is around sustainability, but if we're going to deliver a more sustainable built environment, and that's environmentally more sustainable, socially more sustainable, and economically more sustainable, we need to build differently. We can't just continue to build the way we've always done. So offsite and modern methods of construction are different ways we can actually build. So what am I going to cover off today? I'm going to cover off what I mean by the term offsite construction. Then I'm going to take you on a bit of a tour of specific offsite resources that we have within the Supply Chain School, which can help you to understand better about what offsite actually is. Then I'm going to take you online and show you how to register for the Supply Chain School and undertake your offsite skills assessment. So that's a training needs assessment, which helps you to understand where the gaps in your offsite knowledge actually is. So 4 things we're going to cover off, all in the next 20 minutes. So an ambitious 20 minutes, but I'm sure it's going to go well. So what do we mean by offsite construction? We've taken this definition of offsite construction as the one that you see ahead of us. On the screen now, we've got 7 categories which define offsite construction. I think you would traditionally say that the stages 1 to 5 that you see on the screen in front of you, they are what I would call putting content offsite, where rather than constructing things on a building site, we're actually putting them into a factory environment. 6 and 7 are how we go about improving the productivity of the actual assembly process. So we've taken this modern methods of construction definition framework because it helps if we all within the industry speak the same language. Just very quickly, what do I mean by these various forms of offsite construction? Well, at level one is about pre-manufactured 3-dimensional primary structure systems. So that's volumetric construction, which might be in timber, it might be in concrete, it might be in a hybrid system. But fundamentally, you manufacture the whole module within a factory and bring it to site. 2-dimensional primary structural systems, things like roof trusses and the roofing systems that you see on the screen there, they're a good example of that. Again, manufactured in a factory and brought to site, and they're at level 2. And then we move on to pre-manufactured components at level 3. And then after that, we're on to additive manufacturing. Clearly, we don't see much of that at the moment. What do I mean by additive manufacturing? Well, concrete printing, for example. It is happening around the world, very rare, but increasingly will be happening over the next 5 to 10 years. Then we move on to the pre-manufacturing of non-structural assemblies and sub-assemblies. For that, we might, for example, think of a utility cupboard would be a very good example. Clearly, it's not a structural part of the site itself or the building itself, but you can manufacture it in a factory environment where you've got a lot of components and take a lot of labour off-site, and a lot of the quality issues can be done within a factory to a really high standard, and you get volume and repetition, and then you can actually then bring that whole utility cupboard to site and install it as one. So that's an example of level 5. And when we get on to level 6 and 7, we're talking then about how we use, at its extreme, how we might use robots to assemble on site, but also lean construction techniques. So we have this modern methods of construction spectrum that you see on the screen in front of you on the top right-hand side. And 1 to 5 is offsite, 6 and 7 is on-site process improvements. And what we're trying to achieve is look at the pre-manufactured value. How much of the manufacturing construction of the project is done off-site and how much is done on-site. Clearly, the more that we can drive off-site, we can get the benefits of productivity improvement, sustainability improvement, and reduced labour on-site, which has got many benefits to us all across the industry in terms of safety, productivity, etc., etc. So that's what we mean, and hopefully that's given you a very clear definition of offsite and modern methods of construction, and it is very useful for you to always come back to that. So within the school, we've embedded this way of thinking all the way through our learning. Just to recap on that, at traditional level, we might well have a brick. It's a component which is manufactured off-site, but clearly we need thousands of them to build a traditional house. If we're to move on into a component approach, we might be looking at a door and a door set. So you're buying a door set, as you can see there, which includes the frame, includes the ironmongery, comes with draft excluders, etc. But that's all pre-assembly in a factory, so your joiners not needing to do it on site. Then we move on to things like category 5 we talked about before. Here's a utility cupboard, very good example of that. Moving further on there, we've got another example where we've got a plant room which has been manufactured off-site and then brought and craned onto the roof of the building. As you can see, a lot of high value M&E there, all done off-site. Moving on, we get the non-systemized structure, and there you can see category 3, that's an example of the Sky building out in West London. Moving on to two-dimensional components, you see there CLT timber example, where obviously there's two-dimensional products manufactured off-site and brought to site and slotted together on-site. Moving further along, we've got our traditional volumetric approach that you see there, craned into position, having been manufactured prior to that in a factory, then craned in this case in 3 components and 3 modules and stacked on top of each other. Perfect example there where we've gone from traditional to the fully volumetric approach. So on this off-site adoption scale, we've moved from traditional all the way through to volumetric. Which system we would choose would depend very much upon the client and on the project. We've got plenty of e-learning on that. I recommend that you actually look at the off-site systems and off-site sectors e-learning on that, which will give you an idea of how you optioneer between the various options which are available to you in the market. So moving on, within the supply chain school, how can we help you? We deal with 5 key topics within the supply chain school. Sustainability is our passion, but to deliver that more sustainable and built environment that we all want around environmental, economic and social sustainability, we need to teach about offsite, we need to teach about BIM and digital construction, we need to teach you about lean construction, and we also need to talk about the management skills which enable you to deliver the change management which is required if you're going to embed a digital construction approach or a lean construction approach or an offsite construction approach into building differently. So you'll find within the supply chain school help and advice in all those 5 areas. Specifically in the offsite sector, you'll find 22 training courses that we've developed with the Manufacturing Technology Centre, and we launched those in October of 2020. And you'll see there we've broken those down into offsite fundamentals, learning by job function. So if you're a designer, a project manager, a QS, logistics manager, site manager, or even a procurement manager, we've got training which is right for you. And then moving on from there, if you say, well, actually, I'd like to understand what I need to do differently through the building construction life cycle, we've got design for manufacturing assembly, design of the product and process, which would be the manufacturer, looking at how they design their products. Then we've got offsite manufacturing and how we use lean manufacturing techniques from the aerospace, automotive industry and bring them into the UK construction sector. Then how do we transfer the modules to site, so learning for logistics. Then what do we need to do differently on site, so the on-site assembly. And then finally, and really importantly, we also, what do we mean by maintenance? What does best-in-class maintenance look like? Because if we're going to really get better at building buildings, we need to understand how they perform and take that performance data and feed that back into the design and manufacturing process. Sounds simple, but something we just don't do in our industry at the moment. On top of that, we also need to look at the management topics like leadership, change, collaboration, supply chain management, quality, project management, and even the marketing case and the business case. How do you sell offsite to your clients? So 22 training courses which are available for you there, and hopefully you'll find those very useful indeed. I did talk about that process of construction industrialization as well. Really important for us to understand that we move around the cycle of DFMA, offsite manufacturing, logistics, on-site assembly, and best-in-class maintenance. We structure our training needs assembly, our training needs assessment by those 5 areas. And we're going to go on and do that in just a moment. This is a smart assessment which enables you to understand where your skills are and where your skills gaps are. And I'm going to transfer over to that now. We're going to get online at supplychainschool.co.uk. You'll all be familiar on how to do that. Hopefully you're all members. If you're not members, you can sign up for free. So let me just get over to the site and let's go from there. So when you've typed in supplychainschool.co.uk, you'll arrive at a site like the one you see in front of you. And you can see, let's just have a quick look. You can see we've got the menu up at the top, and on the menu up at the top, you've got, as you go over it, we call it our mega menu, where you can then pull down, you can see all the various topics I've just been talking about: sustainability, lean construction management, BIM and digital construction, and then offsite, as you can see there in front of you, where we take you through that process from DFMA through to manufacture, through to logistics, through to on-site assembly, and then on to maintenance. What you need to do is go to dashboard on the top right hand side there, or if you haven't yet logged into your account, you'll need to press the login button, which will be in the top right hand side. By then pressing on the dashboard button, you will then arrive, as you can see, at your personal learning dashboard that you see in front of you. In actual fact, this is my company dashboard, but by clicking again, I'll just click over and you'll be on my, as you can see there, my personal dashboard. And this has got my various training needs assessments there for BIM, for lean, for management, for offsite, and for sustainability. And this collects together all the learning that I do within the supply chain school. So you can see there, I've attended 13 events. I'm registered for 8 coming up. I've got my personal action plans there. I've done 220 hours of learning within the school. 86 of those were CPD accredited, and I can enroll on various learning pathways and browse the resources throughout this whole school. I'm going to come back in a moment to show you how to do that assessment. But just to remind you, you get a personal assessment, but you also get that company level assessment as well. For the sake of this afternoon, I'll take you through my personal training needs assessment, but remember, you can also do a company-wide assessment as well, and by doing your company level corporate assessment, which you would do on your company dashboard here. But just for a moment, let's click back to the home page, and just like, how do I access learning within the school? Well, first of all, I can access learning by simply going down there and clicking on Offsite, and then I'll get a whole range of learning around Offsite, where I'll introduce you to each of the various 5 topics that we've talked about: DFMA, Offsite, manufacture, etc. And you can go down there and you can filter. Or alternatively, you can go directly to our learning library, which we call our resource library, where you can click on resources here. And this is great. I love this within the school, because this enables us to look at the various topics, well, 2,600 books that we have within the learning library. I say books, they're actually a range of videos, they are a range of e-learning modules, they are a range of tools that you can use, there are a range of other websites that we've found, and documents and briefing papers. Now, very quickly, a bit like you would in an Excel spreadsheet, you can say, well, you can use these filters. So I'm a beginner, or even a beginner and intermediate. And I'd like to learn about Offsite, please. So I click on Offsite, and you can see straight away that we've gone down to now just 239 resources, which are actually available for you to view. Then you can say, well, I'm really interested in viewing something about design for manufacturing assembly, DFMA. So we're applying another filter there. And I'd like to look at the videos which are available for me for DFMA. So then you can see we've got 40 videos which are available for DFMA, and then you can see the various videos on the screen, as you can see. And then to access any of those videos, very simply, if I want to understand what DFMA means to the burn group, in that case to do there, I would quickly just click on that, get told a little bit more about how the burn group there have used Heathrow DFMA on Heathrow Terminal 2. And to click in to that, I then press learn more. And simple as that, start playing the video, and off you go. Got a ratings resource there, and off it goes. It's as simple as that to access resources within the supply chain school. As you can see, I don't think we can make it any more simple for you. And if you wanted to look at e-learning resources, which are CPD accredited. You just click on that and say, oops, we've got 5 different DFMA e-learning resources there. If I also wanted to learn about any type of e-learning resources within the school for Offsite, I've got 13 different resources which are available for me. You just access them by clicking on there. As simple as that to access any of the learning we've got within the school. 2,600 resources spread over those 5 topics. You might well say, well, how do I know what type of learning I need? And the answer to that is you do your training needs assessment. So let's click back to the dashboard. So here we go, going back up to my dashboard up there by clicking on my picture up in the top right-hand side. That'll take me back to my dashboard. And there we go. That's taking me back down to my personal dashboard. So I'm going to now do my individual training needs assessment for Offsite. To do that, you can see I've done them before. I started off out of a score between 1 and 5. I started off scoring 2.13. I'm now up to 2.88 out of 5. So let's have a go at what do we need to do this reassessment. Well, first of all, when you clicked on that simple button there, you get offered kind of the usual kind of privacy notices and just so you understand our terms and conditions. Very simple. Yes, I agree to those, and then we can get started, and off we get started. A moment where I say the wheel of death goes round and round. We'll be starting in 1 second's time. And what we'll do, remember, as I explained, is that we will go round the 5 different topics we looked at within Offsite. You can see those on the left-hand side: design for manufacturing assembly, Offsite manufacturing, logistics, Onsite assembly, and design for maintenance. And all I'm asking you to do here is to look at the statement. Do you understand the benefits of DFMA? Do you understand digital design and BIM? And you're then rating yourself 1 to 5. So 1 to 5, where's your knowledge on the benefits of DFMA? You can see I've done this assessment before and scored myself 4, so that's clicked to 4, yeah? If I want to click a higher level, I just simply click that in there and off we go. Bit of advice to you, if you haven't done this before and you're worried, am I a 2 or am I a 3 or am I a 1 or a 2, always go for the lower level. It's easier to go to the lower level and get resources recommended to you which meet that knowledge and takes you up from the lower level to the higher level than to start off with resources which are just far too advanced for you. So it's easy to go through, it's easy to reassess, as you can see on the screen in front of you. So you simply go through, design for digital design and BIM, the DFMA overlay to the REBA plan of works. Well, I co-wrote that, so hopefully I'm an expert at it. Component and modular standardization, got some advanced knowledge around that now, done a lot of training courses on that since I last assessed. What are the client drivers around DFMA? Again, you rate yourself 1 to 4. Offsite construction systems, getting a much better advanced knowledge on that than I did last time I assessed, so I'll click myself 4 on that. Offsite manufacture, I'm not the greatest of understanding how each of the various systems are actually manufactured within a factory. Got some good working knowledge, so what I've put here is good working knowledge. So you'll have noticed now that we've moved from design for manufacture to offsite manufacture. So we've done the first of those 5 project life cycle, so we're now into the offsite manufacture. So what's my understanding about the levels of offsite manufacture? Then what's my knowledge about the understanding of the offsite supply chain? In other words, who are the manufacturers out there who can help us? And what's my knowledge about where to assemble? Do we assemble in a factory or do we assemble close to site? So I've got good working knowledge around that. What's my knowledge around procurement of offsite solutions? Well, I'd put it up there as expert now because we've just completed developing learning around procurement of offsite solutions. What do we need to do differently if we're procuring offsite solutions to the traditional way? And we've got modules available for you to view on that. What's my knowledge around product quality standards and certification? And what's my knowledge on the commercial benefits of offsite construction? Knowledge around lean manufacturing, Japanese automotive manufacturing techniques. How are we taking those and putting those into the traditional manufacturing environment and really driving quality and efficiency within our factories in the UK construction sector? Something that we need to ensure we're going to do if we're going to actually going to derive the benefits of offsite that we see. I'm not an expert at process control and monitoring in a factory environment, so I put myself down there as understand the basics. I'm not an expert at error prevention and monitoring, but I do understand some of the basics. And I'm definitely not an expert at manufacturing preventative maintenance, but I do understand the basics. So I pick myself as a two there. So again, we've completed 2 of the 5 elements now on the wheel. We're now on to logistics. So first of all, you've got to understand if you're building a project, is my site suitable for offsite solutions? I think having completed a couple of jobs myself in East London, got a pretty much advanced working knowledge about that. How do we assess whether a site is relevant or not? Have we got the right access to the site? Can we use cranes near the site, or I'm tucked up in a really landlocked site where I'm not going to get the right cranes in there? Maybe I've got to oversail a railway, or I'm working near a school, or whatever it might be. How suitable is it to using what types of modules? In a recent job I did, I wanted to end up with full volumetric. We couldn't do it, so we ended up with a 2D panelized system instead. Moving on, what do I understand about just-in-time delivery? Got site assembly staff. They can't be waiting around for deliveries to site. We need to make sure we've got a constant delivery to site. Can't be waiting for modules being delivered late, because we then just stack up. We've got to make sure that the site staff are efficient, so we need a good working knowledge about just-in-time. Materials handling design. So I need to be able to speak to the manufacturer to understand that when they're putting the right lifting points in place, so we've got the right craneage or forklifting or craneage off the truck onto site. So we need to be able to speak to the manufacturer about how we're going to transport it to site. Most manufacturers have really got a good understanding of that, so they'll be able to help you regarding that. But we also, the next step on is to understand about materials requirement planning. What materials am I going to need delivered to site when? How do I plan that, build the materials out, ensure that I manage my demand correctly, which is question 21. How do I manage the relevant demand? This is particularly important if you're going to take a project-led approach rather than a program-led approach to your relationship with your offsite manufacturer. I really recommend to you that you build a strong working relationship with your product manufacturers, whether it's fully volumetric or sub-assemblies or components. You need to understand that they need to keep their factories running consistently. They need to understand that you need to keep your project life cycle running consistently, your sites working consistently as well. So there needs to be a lot of collaboration and the management of the demand from the factory there. That's really important. We need to collaborate really closely. And therefore, that's another topic we need to understand, which is around availability controls. I had a bit of experience with that, so I'm going to rate myself up to a 3 on that now. And then another issue is about how we then track things which are coming to site, using tag and track and process RFID or simple scanning using QR codes and what have you. How do we track everything which is being delivered to site other than somebody actually registering it on paper? That's not good enough. We need to use digital techniques and to be able to track everything and keep track of everything that's delivered to site. Already talked about bills of material. I'm going to rate myself with a 4 on that going forward. Well, on to the 4th element now, which is on-site assembly. So what do I need to do differently if I'm using an off-site solution when I bring it to site? And I'm using the term assembly here rather than construction, because we're going to assemble lots of different components together rather than take some basic materials and mix them up on site and try to create and construct a new building on site. Here I'm going to take a range of components, sub-assemblies, or hopefully modules, and I'm going to assemble them on site. So less parts which are being delivered to site. So people often say to me, Ian, surely with an off-site solution, you have more things delivered to site. You actually have less deliveries to site, but what you get delivered are bigger components or sub-assemblies, which are modules which have already been completed. So you're delivering one utility cupboard or a kitchen or a plant room or a vertical riser or a horizontal riser is being delivered to site, rather than literally hundreds of deliveries of small components to site. Once we've got those coming to site, we need to understand about lean construction and how we assemble and how we store those correctly and how we reduce waste and how we sort components coming to site, understand about value stream mapping, etc. So that's really important that we get and understand lean construction. But we also need to understand that we've got to prototype the assembly process and understand how we're going to assemble it on site, so that when modules are delivered to site, we do it well and we do it right first time. Sequencing is really important as well. We've got to explain to our clients that there is a design freeze a lot earlier. So you can't have a client coming to site and saying, love that, but can you just change the positioning of the utility cupboard or the bathroom, please? You just can't do that with an offsite solution. So design freeze is back at REBA stage 2. You can't be designing something once it's been manufactured. Well, you can, but you're going to pay a lot of money to remanufacture the whole volumetric unit. Right first time, that's about lean construction. When we assemble, got to get it right first time. Quality's been checked in a factory. We should be very confident that we're going to deliver a high quality product on site at the right time. Again, we need to understand about warranties and insurance that we get from our manufacturer, but what they mean in terms of NHBC, BOPAS schemes. How do we give the insurances to the investors and to the mortgage companies to make sure that the product that we're manufacturing on site will actually be mortgageable. Also need to understand about the use of multi-skilled operatives. Value stream mapping I've already talked about on-site process in terms of lean construction. But really important as well on site is for us to understand where we need to predict maintenance going forward as well for the machinery we're using on site. All of that brings us to the final bit of our assessment, which is design for maintenance, and where we're talking about how do we design for operation repair, how do we design for end of life, how do we sell that to the end user as well, the commercial benefits of having good customer care, making sure there isn't snagging, etc., etc. So when we've completed our assessment, we very quickly just go down to the bottom of our assessment here, and we press save and continue. Actually, save and submit your answers in this case, yeah. So we submit our answers, and submitting our answers, whilst we're doing this, the system is working out an action plan, a learning action plan, like selecting 10 different learning materials which are related to the learning that I've actually put down there. So where I've said to myself, I'm an expert at something, it's recommended me an expert resource. Where I've said I'm only a beginner, it's recommending me a beginner's resource. So you can see on the screen in front of me, go there, I've now got a 10-point action plan. I can view that action plan by clicking on there. And I've got a lot of things regarding the manufacturing process and maintenance, because if you notice when I went through the assessment, I was saying I wasn't very good at that. So it's given me things which are relevant to on-site assembly, to manufacturing process and to maintenance. When we get to access any of those 10 resources, very simple, I just click on them. As you can see there, the system takes me through to the relevant resource. I can see what it is, I can press get started, and there I am, off I go. It's as simple as that to do your training needs assessment. And once you've done your training needs assessment, it then gives you a score, like you can see on the screen in front of you. So I've now got an offsite score of 3.05, got up from 2.88 at the start of this process. Now we're up to 2.13. And we've got the action plans we can access there, and we're all ready to go. So that's how we use the system. That's how we do our training needs assessment on site. That's how we access learning through the school. Back to that resources there, remember, into our resource library. We can either dive into the resource library, select using those filters that you see, or we can use the learning plan that we've just got as a result of us doing that training needs assessment. And remember, you can assess as many times as you want, and you can also do it at a company level as well. I would recommend, if you're doing it at a company level, I'd recommend very much that what you should be doing is getting a group of people around the table and assessing company-wide knowledge rather than just your own opinion of what that knowledge is within the company. So quickly going back to my presentation, we got online at supplychainschool.co.uk. If you'd like to know any more, email me, ian@supplychainschool.co.uk. Really happy to help you. But to find out more about Offsite, it's supplychainschool.co.uk/topics/Offsite, and you'll learn everything you need to know about Offsite. Thank you very much, and look forward to your starting on your journey. Thank you.